Hello and welcome to Going to College, a special educational podcast brought to you in association with QQI. My name is Rob O'Hanrahan, and this podcast will take you through the 2024 Leaving Cert results, the CAO offers, everything in between, and most importantly, what comes next, starting college life. And that is where today's episode will take us. I'm delighted to be joined by Pádraig Walsh, CEO of QQI, and Roisin O'Donoghue, Guidance Counsellor at Gorey Educate Together Secondary School. Folks, thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so jealous of these students, I'm not going to lie. I'm sure we all remember getting the envelope, not online. It definitely wasn't online. But we remember getting the envelope, we remember the excitement, all that kind of stuff. Roisin, do you remember what it was like leaving and walking out the gates of secondary school for probably what you thought was the last time before you went back in as a teacher, as a guidance counsellor?
No, did I ever really leave school is the question. Oh, absolutely. You know, it's such a momentous day. It's a day of real change, and I remember being sad to be leaving behind a place that I knew so well, that I enjoyed, my friends. But I was so excited to be going on to the next chapter. And I was aware of all of the possibilities that were available to me now that I was taking a step out into the big bad world on my own, you know. Yeah.
And Pádraig, for yourself?
It's even further back. I was actually filled out the first year of CAO in 1977. But as Roisin said, going from school, from where everybody knows you, to going to UCD where I went, which was big, college in Belfield at the time. The difference between people telling you don't actually have to come in, no one's going to take attendance. They do, not for lectures anyway, they do for laboratories or tutorials. And this concept of independent learning, where you won't have someone sending back your essay and correcting it. The exams will be there and you have to do them. And that I suppose is the big challenge. But that's about growing up. I mean, that's the excitement of real life.
Yeah, it's real fish out of water stuff for some people, Roisin, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that sometimes we can underestimate just how big a change it is for young people to cope with. As Pádraig said, moving from, an environment that's very structured. Your day is very structured with that timetable and the school bell. You have friends around you that you've known for the last 6 years and you've been working with, teachers that you've been working with over 6 years. And it's such a massive change then to move into an environment where your time is your own to manage, and all of a sudden you're responsible for what your day is going to look like. As Pádraig said, there's nobody calling the roll. There's no bell to signal when it's time to go to your next lecture or tutorial. And that can be a big change for young people to manage. And it's important for us as adults maybe not to underestimate that. And also for the young people themselves to give themselves a little bit of time to settle in and get used to that new way of being. It won't all happen in the first week. It'll take a bit of settling in time.
Yeah, I think that idea of structure is really important. I was back in my old secondary school recently. I hadn't been in the place in 15 years and the bell is still the same and it went off. Pavlovian response. I was looking around going, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. So those kind of things never leave. Getting there is obviously so important. We know the first round offers have come out, that people have had time to digest them and to go through them, but that we're far from the end of the process here. So if someone hasn't gotten the offer that they wanted in the first round, what are the kind of next steps?
Well, I suppose, first of all, my advice would be, to be aware that there will be second round, third round offers coming out. The offers will go until the places are filled up, and then any remaining places will be available on the available places list on the CAO website. So there is a possibility of more offers in round 2 and round 3 and so on. But I would advise any student who has received an offer in round 1 to accept that offer while they're waiting. If they become eligible for an offer in round 2 or round 3, a higher ranked preference on their CAO list, they will be made that offer in round 2 or round 3, even if they have already accepted their round 1 offer. The problem arises where people hold off and they don't accept their first round offer in the hope that a higher preference might come up in round 2, but it's not guaranteed. So if you don't accept that first round offer, you may be left with nothing. But accepting that first round offer won't rule you out of being offered a higher preference place in round 2 or round 3. Okay. So that's important.
It all happens very quick from here on in. We're into September now, and really now we're moving into kind of lectures starting, and you know, students who aren't first years are probably already back at this point, or at least looking to get back. A huge issue for people this year is going to be, once again, accommodation. And I know there are options available to people. We might talk around a little bit of that, but Pádraig, this is a huge challenge for the incoming first years.
It is. I mean, particularly in the cities, it's a challenge for young people and older people looking to get into accommodation and housing. And students tend to be further down the list from that. So it is, on top of the stress in many cases of people moving from home, moving from what we've just talked about, an environment that is very structured, you have the challenge of finding accommodation, which of course is key to your well-being. If you have huge travel to go to, it's more difficult. Or if you're just in accommodation that you don't like, or it's too crowded, etc., it obviously has an impact on your ability to do your study. So it's a big challenge. Yeah.
I know that a lot of universities will reserve on-campus accommodation for a certain portion of it for incoming first years. There are other options available though, because they tend to fill up quite quickly, Roisin. Yeah,
the campus accommodation can be really competitive to get a place in it. It's often done on a lottery basis, and as you said, there is often some space held, percentage of rooms held for the first year students, but it can still be very difficult to get a place on campus. Other options include things like digs in the area, a flat share with maybe some friends. You could go online to sites like studentpad.ie to look up, what might be available in your area, and they kind of help students connect in with places to stay in the local area. But the other place to go is most universities will have an accommodations office, and if you have received a place in a certain college, it's a really good idea to get straight in touch with their accommodations office or their students' union, and somebody there will usually be able to talk you through what the best options are in that particular area. Because as Pádraig said, there is an accommodation crisis countrywide, but there are pressure zones, particularly in the cities. Whereas if you're going to some of the more regional universities or colleges, you may be quicker to find somewhere.
It's an excellent point as well that the Students' Union and the accommodations officer or accommodations office are a huge and very, very valuable source of information for students coming in, and they are available to help, and I'm sure they would be more than happy to take phone calls, emails and everything else in between to help those students. Taking away the structure, right? I'm thinking of that Seamus Heaney poem, Scaffolding. You take away the scaffolding, right? But you hope it's okay. If you take away the scaffolding for students, it can be very difficult, because I think as well, because the nature of schooling in secondary schools now as well is that it is so intense, it is so kind of helped through to the 6th years, that when it's all taken away, it can be a bit of a shock for students.
Yes, it can. It can be a period of real readjustment for them. And you're right, schools are fantastic. Schools have loads of supports in place to help students, taking care of their well-being, their attendance, their punctuality, their study. And that's fantastic when you're in school. But it's really important to just think ahead of, okay, how am I going to manage that, as you said, when the scaffolds come down, hoping that your wall is still solid. And look, it's important to remember, I suppose, that while there is a lot of responsibility now on you as an individual to do that independent learning and take control of managing your own time, there are still a lot of supports in the colleges and universities. There are wonderful supports available for first years in particular, but for all students. Student support office, there's an academic support office, there's usually a counsellor available online on campus if you're really struggling. So certainly I would advise students in the first week or two just to kind of get the lay of the land, touch base with your student rep, because you'll probably have one in first year. You'll have someone from the student union who'll be assigned to kind of reach out to you and check in how you're doing, and ask them about, where should I go? Where's the office? Find it in your first week, even if you don't use it in your first week. Know where it is. Locate the student support office, the academic support office, even the doctors, the nurses' office. They'll all be on campus, and it's important to know where those things are.
Yeah, absolutely, because it is quite a huge transition for students. But as Roisin says, it's not all, you're not being chucked out of a plane without a parachute. There's a lot of supports there.
There are. At the same time, it's very important to recognise that whereas when you're doing the Leaving Cert, you have 2 years lead up to the exams. You don't have that in college. almost all the colleges are semesterised now, and some of them involve taking exams before Christmas. So if you go to the UCD, for instance, you'll start class on the 9th of September. All years start at the same time for the first time since 2019, this year. Classes finish on 29th of November and the exams start on the 7th of December. So people need to start early. Make sure that people don't get left behind because you will have exams in many cases quite early on. I mean, that is the adjustment period. Years back, you used to have a year to do that. You don't have it anymore. So while it's good to have fun and to get oriented, it's important to start work early on.
This cohort going in, if they are leaving straight from 6th year and going straight into university, Roisin, will have examples of having worked with continuous assessment, be they projects through the Leaving Cert or whether it was the CBAs back when they were in 2nd and 3rd year. So they will know about continuous assessment, but it's a huge part of college life. Yes,
it is. And more so as the years go on. Continuous assessment is probably a more realistic reflection of how you'll end up working in the workplace when you do leave college. So it really has become part of the university college curriculum. And as Pádraig said, it's important to be aware of that from day one, because your first cohort of assessments can come upon you quite quickly. Mm-hmm. What I would advise students to do is make sure that they download the college handbook. Each year, colleges or universities will issue a handbook, and in that handbook will be a list of all of the key dates, the semester dates, the examination dates, the assignment dates, and just to make a note of those on their calendar so nothing catches them by surprise. That would be quite an important task.
I mean, the other thing about doing continuous assessment is that often that's group work. That's a good way to meet people.
Absolutely.
It's a chance, that you will be assigned in groups, same as you will be in tutorial groups, which are smaller, even if you're doing one of the big courses like arts or commerce.
And that will be a big change, that group work. A great way, as you say, Pádraig, to make friends, and also, as I'm sure many people will attest to make enemies as well. Mm-hmm. When it comes then to outside of the classroom, outside of the lecture hall, there's a lot more, obviously, to college. It is not just about the kind of formal education that you receive. Clubs and socks is a phrase that people will come to know, Roisin, but it really caters to everything. I remember being in college and there was a home and away society. Don't know how active they were outside of 1:20 every day, Monday to Friday on RT1, but it offers everyone an opportunity really to find their tribe. Is that the best way to put it?
Yes, that's a really great way to put it. That first step into college or university, it can be daunting, especially if you're one of the few to come from your school to that particular college or university. And as you said, clubs and societies are a great way to link in with people who have similar interests to you. So there is a club and society on most college campuses for nearly every interest or every activity. But if there isn't, you do have the opportunity to go to your students' union and ask about setting one up yourself. So yeah, it's a great way to make connections in first year. Join as many as you can. Decide which ones you enjoy and which ones are not for you, and then you can let them go slowly and hold on to the ones that you're really connected with. But in first year, join as many clubs and societies as you can to really get into the thick of college life.
For a lot of universities will be maybe particularly sports heavy, whatever it is, but it's also for people who have no interest in sport, who may be interested in drama or have those kind of niche interests. There will always be something that you can find and people you can find who are interested in what you are.
There's still a Freshers' Week, the chance to come around where everyone sets out their wares, and remember the people that are talking to you about that are people who were in your position a number of years ago. All the officers that are people that will start from the start. As I say, some of the sporting ones are quite competitive. I mean, because colleges play, against in rugby and Gaelic football in competitions against other people. But there are lots of other areas. I was involved in mountaineering, which wasn't competitive. It was a great way to meet people.
Yeah, I even remember taking a stroll around the Clubs and Socks Day on our campus last year, and the variety. Like, I know you look at people will go in geared towards Gaelic footballs, but there's Dungeons and Dragons, there's like airsoft. I know, and I will say as well, sports are very competitive, but as someone who plied their trade in the 5th and 6th teams of colleges, there can be much more crack.
Absolutely. And just to say about that, I remember in college there was your drama society, your dance society, there was a juggling club, there was a circus skills club, there was everything in between. But often you go into university pursuing a particular degree, But sometimes a lot of people move on into the world of work and draw on skills that they actually honed in their clubs and societies. And I know I've heard countless numbers of stories of, Irish actors that we see in our theatres and on our screens who came to acting through their drama sock in college rather than doing a drama or theatre degree. So what you pursue in those clubs and societies can really open doors for your future just as much as your academic degree can.
What would you tell your younger self if it was you going back and starting in college? What would you say to yourself? What advice would you give?
I think I would say, look, don't be nervous. Jump in the deep end. Everybody is just as nervous as you. Because I was nervous heading off to college on my own. I certainly was. But I came to realise afterwards that everybody was in the same boat. So just to kind of push yourselves out of your comfort zone, take that step even though it feels unnerving, and give everything a shot. And I suppose one of the most important pieces of advice I would give young people is it's a great time, it's an exciting time, but there will be little speed bumps along the way. And if you do hit one, ask for help early. Don't be afraid to reach out and look for support if you need it. Don't try and battle through on your own, because, you risk, I suppose, dampening your own enjoyment of what should be a wonderful time in your life. So ask for support, reach out, and it will improve your experience if you make those support connections early.
Yeah. Pori, what about yourself?
I mean, they say school days or college days are the best years of your life, and they can be. I think that's the thing to remember. You won't get probably another shot of this at an 18 to 20-year-old. Particularly, I say to people, as well as taking advantage of college, make use of the fact that if you're doing a 4-year program, you have 3 summers that you'll have off. You'll never have that time back again where you have 4 or 5 months. Back in the 80s, when I was in college, I worked in Denmark for a summer. I did a J1 in America. Absolutely fantastic experiences, just living completely, particularly for someone who's gone to college from home, and many Irish people do, because most of our colleges are in the city. So there are those great opportunities that you look back on still for the rest of your life.
Yeah, no, that is a very nice way to finish off this podcast series. My thanks to Roisin and to Pádraig. This has been the second part of a 2-part series in association with QQI. A reminder to go back and check out episode 1, which will take you through the Leaving Cert results of 2024 and a bit more advice on the CAO process as well. But thanks for listening.